Alabama is known for wild history, and one of the things is Huggin Molly. Huggin Molly comes from a small town called Abeville, and this is a story that scared kids and adults alike. Legend has it that a woman dressed in black appears only at night, have an eerie habit of hugging her victims tightly and screaming in their ears. It's said to be a grieving mother who lost her child and now roams the streets searching for children to hug as a twisted way to cope with her loss. It's kind of like La Llorona. On to Alaska with the Kushtaka. This one is a otter man or land otter man. That's what the word actually translates to. We have an otter man that is a shapeshifter. It'll appear half man, half otter, half man, or a mixture of just animals combined into a weird creature. It is said to lure unsuspecting folks to their doom by mimicking cries for help and then clawing them, drowning them, and eating them. This is a wild creature that is said to live and lurk in the natures of Alaska, though most haven't really seen it or heard it. And according to Navajo legends, skinwalkers are witches who can transform into animals at will. They are mostly seen as wolves, owls, coyotes. You just really don't know what they're going to transform into. They're believed to use their powers to cause harm, spread fear, and carry out dark deeds. A lot of them are known for clawing and killing victims, dragging unsuspecting victims off into the desert to die of starvation. Basically, they are the all around bad guys of the desert. They're not just into shape shifting, they mimic voices to lure people into traps. They possess bodies. They can even possess other animals. These creatures are very dangerous to the natives. Onto the Arkansas Gauro. It is named after the growling sound that it makes. It is a lizard like creature with massive tusks and dwells in the deep dark caves of the Ozarks, emerging to feed on livestock. According to some tales, wary travelers as well. Sightings have been notated as far back as the 1800s. These creatures are very large in size, ranging between 15 to 20 feet long, serrated tusks protruding from the jaws, capable of impaling victims. Very scary creatures. Long history in the Ozarks as well. They are a wild bunch. California Dark Watchers. These creepy creatures and figures have been freaking people out for centuries. The Churmash people, they've called the place home long before Spanish showed up, have tales of shadowy beings watching them from the cliffs. These creatures would be seen on the hilltops, looking over towns and villages, and just creeping out the people. They're a wild, scary bunch. Uh, Children would go missing. You just rub your eyes, and then they're gone. Fast forward to the 1700s, the Spanish rolled in, and they claimed that it was Satan himself sending devils to watch over people. The Colorado Slide Rock Bolter. This one's kind of interesting because there are stories that do go back to the 1800s and the 1900s. But if you ask a lot of locals and people who have been there for a long time, they've never heard of it because it's not something that is talked about. This is supposed to be a old monster, size of a blue whale, and face of the face that only a mother could love, and the mouth that could swallow a herd of cattle whole. It just slithered around on the mountains and steep slopes, clinging to whatever it can with a hooked tail, waiting for the right moment to just eat up a nosy miner that came into view. This is a wild creature and a wild tale that seems to be missing from a lot of people. The Connecticut melonheads. This goes back to the 1970s, bell bottoms and everything. Local spinning tales about melonheads, creatures that with heads so big they make bobbleheads look proportional. They are stuff of nightmares. Wild as the creatures themselves. That is the origins. Government experiments gone wrong. Why not? Sadistic doctor. Why not? Patients escaped with heads swollen to grotesque size. Why not? Basically, these creatures were just people with abnormally large heads wandering the forests and scaring people. There's a lot going on with this one. Delaware with the Shelbyville Swamp Monster. This one is pretty easy to explain. Uh, this goes back to the 60s. It is, a cross between Swamp Thing and Bigfoot. It really is. That is the best way to put it. It's a full blown hair raising legend of a creature, and everything is everything's Bigfoot related. It does make noises like crickets chirping and demonic growling. One to lure you in and one to scare you. Uh, there's been a lot of people that have seen this one with the green glowing eyes and everything. Uh, it is it is a wild creature and it's very very uh, fierce. As we all know, Florida skunk ape. This one is completely, completely normal. This is one that we've all heard and seen. Short little Bigfoot creature smells like a skunk. But this is one that has a long-standing history, some even longer than the actual Bigfoot itself. This goes back to, the 40s and 50s on into the 70s. It really does have a very long history. There is some evidence to say that it would and does exist, but we will never truly know until we can figure it all out and the government lets us in on their secrets. Welcome to Georgia with the Altamaha. Very weird name. It is a sturgeon-like head with flippers and described to be 20 to 30 feet long. It really is a strange creature. This has been cited all the way back to the 1980s. So it is one of those ones where you really gotta take it with a grain of salt because hadn't been seen for all these years, and then the 1980s it pops up. It's a snake with legs. It is it is weird. It really is. It drags people to the bottom of the rivers and lakes and drowns them and then lets them go. So I'm thinking this one's more of a missed identification. The Hawaiian Night Marchers. This is one that we've seen in previous videos from other people, where people in gowns and torches marching through the wilderness, through trails, absolutely silent, just creepy as all hell, really. People don't know who they are or what's going on, but they do follow some Hawaiian traditions that have been seen since you know the 20s and 30s. and it does fall suit with a lot of that. So I'm guessing that the night marchers are actually part of Hawaiian culture that people just don't understand and they want to keep quiet. Welcome to Idaho and Charlie of the Payette Lake. Yeah, this is another snake-like water creature similar to, the Loch Ness monster or, Champ. It's similar, but this one is supposed to have snake-like fangs that inject venom, eat large prey, and have been possibly known to eat people. This has been a thing since 1940s, so it really is a wild, wild creature. Uh, something described to be 30 to 35 feet long and sinister, very scaly and slimy. Here we are, Illinois, the Enfield Horror. This came about in the 1960s, 1970s. Very, very dark creature. There was a man uh, named Henry, no nonsense kind of guy. Just grabs his flashlight to go check out noises that he was hearing outside. It was scratching at the door, scratching at the house, scratching at the windows. He got out, walked onto his porch, turned, flashlight in hand, and there it was, the creature staring at him, stubby arms and claws and nasty creature just clawing at the house. That's just creepy. But a long history, thousands of reported sightings of this wicked creature. Welcome to Indiana. Meet Beast of Busco, a turtle the size of a dinner table. Massive creature, just ginormous. This has been sighted since the 1940s, seen all over what is the Churubusco area. Not sure how it's supposed to be pronounced, but it's been seen in the soybean fields. It People mistake it for, you know overturned boats in the water, and then it moves, it goes under, it shows its head. Absolutely massive. I swear, if I saw a turtle that big, that thing would be a ninja turtle. It really would be. That- I love turtles. Turtles are great. The Iowa Van Meter Visitor. This is one of those Jersey Devil type things, the Mothman crossover. It is a really weird one, but it has been seen since the early 1900s, like before 1910. Uh, Very large creature, massive wingspan, horns, just crazy, crazy creature. It has a whip-like tail. Uh, just This was actually spotted by military personnel that were in town. So, I mean, if the military personnel was saying that they were seeing it before they started, cloaking things, yeah, that's a little bit more believable coming from the feds. Here we are in Kansas with Sinkhole Sam, a 15-foot long worm with teeth that was known for basically eating all the earth underneath the specific parts of the fields, causing sinkholes, and then scurrying through tunnel systems underground. Many people have caught sight of it. This is another one that is weird because uh, it's been around since the 50s, and we all know sinkholes. They've been popular in recent history, but not so much back in the 50s. So this is another wild, wild creature that very few people know about. It's something that should be investigated more. Kentucky and their Pope Lick monster. Uh, this is this is another head scratcher. Uh, Body of a man, head of a goat, legs of a goat, horns spouting from its head. Like the descriptions on these are funny because it's got the head of a goat, the body of a goat, and the legs of a goat, but also the body of a man. How can you have the body of a goat and the body of a man? Well, it's said to be standing on hind legs, like a goat would stand on its hind legs and walk around. This has been seen basically since the 70s. Wild creature. Uh, it would draw people under bridges, and they would find them drowned under the bridges. It would draw people onto the bridges where it would push them off to their death. It's a scary creature. Louisiana, the Rougarou. This one is a Cajun mystery. It's the it's basically the werewolf of Cajun history, a boogeyman of Louisiana. It stalks the swamps, the bayous, the sugarcane fields. It hunts naughty children and adults who don't follow the rules. It's basically the Louisiana Krampus. It's been a going story for decades and decades. Uh, it really is. It is a wild tale. It's been around for 70 years now. This is a good one. I do want to see more of this being investigated in the future. The Maine Spectre Moose. It is a story that's been around since the early 1900s, 1910 and before that. Very large, 15-foot tall ghost moose. This moose seemed to be draped in a silky cloth. Spectre is partially see through, glowing eyes, and s- just towers over everything in its path. This is a kind of weird creature, very elusive. Not many stories about sightings of it, but the ones that are out there, they all have very very close uh, descriptions. Very spooky. But then again, it's Maine. We're all familiar with the Maryland Goat Man, the Goat Man Bridge, body of a man, head of a goat, goat legs. Well, this is this is this is a very known thing, very common, also descriptive. Goat creatures and so on. These these have been around for a long time. The Goat Man and the Goat Man Bridge. It's very widely known. Uh, Said to be wielding an axe and making blood curdling screams. They're The locals know about him. People will know about him. He's been investigated for years by pretty much every paranormal investigator out there. I don't think this one's going to go away anytime soon. Massachusetts and the Dover Demon. The legend of the demon began on April 21st, 1977. Three teenagers had separate encounters with a bizarre creature over a 25-hour period. First sighting was by a 17-year-old Bill Burlett. He driving down the farm street when his headlights illuminated a small figure on a stone wall. Very large, glowing eyes, watermelon-shaped head, long, spindly limbs, and hairless, rough textured body. This one falls in line with a lot of alien encounters. But this is another one where you know it has a distinct history. It does. I mean, it was actually recorded in police reports back then. The Michigan Dogman. This came out in the 1880s, right around 1887. The whole thing was a wild trip. Uh, Use Lumberjacks were out chopping down trees when they saw the creature that was part man, part dog. This man dog creature had intense blue eyes, and the lumberjacks were so scared they took off, leaving I mean, all of their equipment. They had to send a second team in to finish the work. Kind of reminds me of that X Files about the glowing bugs and all the lumberjacks going missing. Welcome to Minnesota and the Wendigo. This is another very long standing cryptid on pretty much everyone's radar. We know all about them, we know what they do, we know pretty much every story that's ever been told has been told and told over again. Is a Native American creature, Algonquin speaking people, including the Ojibwe and Cree, knew about the legend of the Wendigo. This is a very supernatural being associated with insatiable hunger, greed, and cannibalism. It People ate each other so much that they turned into creatures that basically had to survive by eating human flesh. That is a wicked hunger. Mississippi and the Pascagoula River aliens. This dates back to October 11th, 1973, when two shipyard workers, Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker, were fishing on the river, enjoying a quiet evening, and suddenly heard a buzzing noise and saw a blinding blue light. Before they knew it, a UFO descended near them and out stepped three bizarre humanoid creatures. That that would that would make me want to put down the beer and go home. That would. I mean, this story is not just the only story of it happening. It has happened over 25 times since then. What aliens are fishing now? This is crazy. Missouri Momo, known for its rivers and rolling hills, they do have their own creature lurking in the midst. The Momo monster, a Bigfoot like beast, has been subject to local legends and spine chilling sightings for decades, all going back to the 1970s in small town of Louisiana, Missouri. Harrison family reported seeing the large hairy creature standing by a tree near their home, described as having a pumpkin shaped head, glowing orange eyes, and foul odor that made them gag. Yeah, you live in the woods and you roll around. I mean, ain't no Charmin out there to wipe up the mess. You just gotta grab up a nice little fluffy rabbit and clean yourself off. The Montana Shunka Warrican. That one's a mouthful and a half. Uh, Wolf-like beast, but it's also described as Bigfoot with a big head. Uh, this is a creature that's been reported basically since the 70s. Uh, it uh, they spotted this creature on properties across Montana, across the plains of Montana. It was eating cattle, uh, carries off dogs, uh, and basically eats the people's pets. a wild creature. Bigfoot with a big head. That's funny. The Alkali Lake Monster of Nebraska. We all know the Alkali Lake from X Men. This snake-like creature dates back to 1921 when a rancher named John M. Marr reported seeing the creature in the murky waters of Alkali Lake. It's now Walgren Lake, but this was by Hay Springs, Nebraska. Creature was mm, supposedly 40 feet long with horned alligator like head, long snake body covered in dark scales that were like armor. Uh, yeah, this beast was supposedly so fast in the water that it left no wake. Not sure how you can be that fast in a lake without making any kind of wake. Nevada and the Tahoe Tessie. This is this is a another strange one. The tale of a lake monster in Lake Tahoe. Dates back to the indigenous tribes living around Tahoe. Now this is another thing. Like we've got all these all the same creatures, and they're all described to be similar to Loch Ness monster. So 30 to 80 feet long, big monsters living in the water, but they can get out of the water and cross over land to get to other water. So it makes you wonder, uh, is it really dinosaurs out there living in these waters in caves? We found cave systems before that just have no bottom. It's possible. The New Hampshire Wood Devils. This is another story of creatures in the woods scaring off lumberjacks, hunters, and other creatures and animals. This is another one. They are remarkable speeds. They have the same speeds as the uh, Wendigo, and they have slender bodies. They're very agile, and they emit high pitched screams. And there are certain writings of these creatures running past lumberjacks and slicing their backs, just cutting through their clothing with razor sharp claws. That's pretty scary. Yeah, the all knowing tale of the New Jersey Devil. This one is self-explanatory. It really doesn't really need an introduction or story byline. Everybody knows about it. Everybody knows the stories of it. I mean, hell, they've done all kinds of stories of it on the X Files, and pretty much every paranormal group out there has their hand in this story. Early 1700s, you know, flying out the chimney and the devil and everything. We all know this one. New Mexico and La Llorona. Yeah, the ghost of a woman who lost her children and is now seeking others. Uh, this is a story that has like 9 movies made about it. I prefer the not the last one that was made, but the one before that. That one really that one really chills you. That's a good movie. Everybody knows this one. This is the deep Hispanic folklore of New Mexico, but southern Arizona, they have a lot of stories about it too. And I know actual Spanish families that still teach their kids the story to keep them in line. New York Champ. Everybody knows Champ. Yet another legendary lake monster. Lake Champlain. This one, this one is just another one. I mean, this one goes back to what, like 1970s. Was one of the most famous stories of him. Uh, you know, lizard creature, lake monster. Everybody knows this one. Yeah, this is another one that they did on the X Files, which was a really good episode. I did like that episode. I like all the X Files episodes. We need to bring back that original type of filming. North Carolina and the Beast of Bladenboro. This goes back to the 1950s. Trail of Fear and Speculation. Uh, this is this is a pretty good one. December 1953. Uh, Residents of the town started finding their livestock dead and drained of blood. Animals, mostly dogs and goats, had been brutally killed and their bodies crushed and the blood seemingly sucked out. Imagine waking up and your dog is just flat as a pancake in your backyard, and there's no blood at all. Large cat-like creature with dark fur, piercing eyes, blood curdling scream. Yeah, that is a wild, wild creature, and that is like the North Carolina's version of the Chupacabra. North Dakota and the Miniwashitu. Nodaks have their own little creature. This is basically something that is described similar to the creature of the Black Lagoon. Uh, yeah, it's a creature haunting the Missouri River for centuries, and it takes down all kinds of animals and creatures. It has sharp spines, cyclopean eyes covered in red fur. It it's known to take down buffalo. That's a big ass creature and powerful too. Very snake like tail, long body. Yeah, it's a big boy. The Ohio Loveland Frogman. Ribbit Ribbit. Story's been going around since before 1955. According to the story, a businessman was traveling late at night along the Little Miami River in Loveland when he saw three bipedal frog like creatures in the road. The creatures were about 3 or 4 feet tall with leathery skin, webbed hands and feet, and crawling down the road. Yeah, that's that's pretty wicked. Uh, in '72, a police officer named Mark Matthews reported a similar encounter. Yeah, these guys are pretty well known for that area, so it really makes you wonder: do frogmen live among us? We will never know. The Oklahoma octopus. Yes, you heard that. This has been surfacing since early 2000s. Swimmers and boaters reported seeing a large tentacled creature in the water. Even more chilling is the unexplained drownings. Some people believe that the octopus was responsible, dragging victims to their watery grave. The idea of a giant octopus in a freshwater lake seemed far fetched, but sightings and mysterious deaths kept happening, and that keeps the legend alive. And, you know, there are stories of these creatures, octopus and stuff, going to waters where people don't believe that they can survive. Scientists don't believe they can survive, but they survive because they adapt very well. So it is a possibility. The Oregon colossal clawed. This is one that is pretty interesting. It's a story that goes back to 1930s. A fisherman near the mouth of the Columbia River started reporting sightings of a massive serpentine creature. Description varied, but most agreed it was about 40 feet long with a neck, horse-like head, serpentine body. It a lot of the you know people that talk about this and describe it such as a dinosaur that walks but can also swim. So this is another one of those Loch Ness monster type deals mixed with other creatures. The Pennsylvania squonk. This is a wickedly weird one. This comes back to a book written in 1910. It's a book titled "Fearsome Creatures of the Lumberwoods" by William T. Cox. Cox. Uh, yeah, the descriptions in the book were wild, crazy descriptions. Uh, it's known for its perpetual sadness, just constantly being seen sitting on logs, being sad. This is a weird creature, and is an ugly, wrinkled creature with ill-fitting skin covered in warts and blemishes. Uh, my ex. Yeah. Rhode Island and the vampire Mercy Brown. It's a story of the 1800s of the Brown family all succumbing to a disease, and later, vampires rising from the grave and draining life from a family member to save his life. The community decided to take drastic measures, and in March of 1892, the bodies were exhumed from the cemetery, and despite being dead for several months, uh, her body was well preserved, leading the villagers to believe that she was a vampire. They removed her heart and liver and burned them, and mixed the ashes with water to create a potion for Edwin to drink to cure him. Unfortunately, it didn't work, and he died. So, way to fuck that up. South Carolina and the Lizard Man of Scape Ore Swamp. This falls back to 1988. A young man named Christopher Davis had a car breakdown near the swamp. Uh, as he was changing the tire, he heard noises and looked up to see a 7 foot tall, green, scaly skinned, green eyed, or glowing red eyes and three fingered hands. The beast was not your average swamp creature. Uh, Seeing that it was 7 feet tall and just staring at him. There's a lot of stories about this. People brush it off as kids wearing costumes, but 1988, you don't really see a 7 foot tall kid, do you? Yeah, let alone one standing next to a car at a swamp. South Dakota, the Takuhi. This story comes from the early 1800s. Yes, another Bigfoot. This is why I say that Bigfoot has a very large uh, habitat, because Bigfoot sightings happen all across the globe, everywhere. And Bigfoot researchers they tend to only stick to one or two states in the U.S. instead of exploring elsewhere, because yes, it is another name, but it's still the same descriptions, the same sightings, the same settings. It is a wild thing to just go, oh well, it's not Bigfoot because it has a different name. Yeah, you're an ass. Tennessee, the Tennessee Wild Man. This one again falls into the same category as Bigfoot, but also kind of mixed with the Wolfman. Uh, it has been around since the early 1900s, and talking the 1910s, 1920s. I mean, this has been a long, long ongoing thing. I mean, stories of creatures such as Bigfoot have been around since the 1400s and before. There's cave drawings of creatures similar to Bigfoot, and scientists say, well, it doesn't exist. It can't exist. I beg to differ. The Texas Chupacabra here. Here we go. Uh, Legend really took off in the 90s, but it has existed far before that. The Chupacabra history and lore actually traces back to the 1700s. I mean, it is a very, very well known story. And the story didn't actually start in Texas, it actually hails from Mexico. And, it's kind of funny because, back then Texas was mostly Mexico. So I guess it really did come from Texas. Yeah, that's how that story goes. But we all know the chupacabra and the blood sucking and the claws and the climbing up on houses and eating pets and killing animals. We all know this. Utah in the Bear Lake Monster. This hails from 1868. This is a pretty wild story. Very large, toothy fish. Uh, a lot of the stories of the Bear Lake Monster describe something similar to an alligator gar, uh, but larger. Very large teeth, uh, fast moving speeds. It it was strong enough to uh, destroy boats and punch holes in ship sides. The legend was pretty wild. They actually had a fishing tournament where people were uh, basically out trying to catch it for a prize. It was a wild, wild ride. The Pigman of Vermont. This dates back to the 1950s in a town called Northfield. Uh, Story started by a local boy named Sam Harris. He went missing one Halloween night, and the story goes Sam dressed as a pig costume for a prank and disappeared without a trace. Soon after, people began reporting sightings of a creature that looked like a man with the face of a pig lurking around the hills and abandoned buildings. Ah. Basically, the legend is that the boy died during a prank, and he's been basically transformed into a pig man to constantly scare people for the rest of eternity. That's that's pretty fucked up right there. Virginia and the Bunny Man. This goes back to 1970s in Fairfax County. People began reporting a man in a bunny suit wandering the woods near a place called Colchester Overpass. Now it is known as the Bunny Man Bridge. We all know this one. We all know the lore. It's been wild, and it's been widely known for a long time. So we don't really need to dive too deep into it. I mean, the throwing the hatchet through car windows, you know, cutting people, slashing at people, dragging people into the over underpass, tunnel. There's a lot of stories for the Bunny Man. Washington, and finally onto Bigfoot. This isn't really something that's too impressive for me. I mean, we've got Bigfoot all over the country, but we've got the whole, Bigfoot was their first myth, even though there's stories of the creature far before, Bigfoot came about in the 1950s. So we've got the Patterson Gimlin film and made in '67. I mean, it's the story is out there and it is dated, so it's not that important to me. Bigfoot is a very widely known creature, and I do believe that there is a very large possibility that he does exist. The West Virginia Mothman, the Mothman prophecies. Uh, s- it's said that if you see him, he basically is there before any kind of natural disaster, wild disaster, uh, any kind of disaster really. We all know the bridge collapse and building collapses and everything, and then we all know that the town made a statue, and apparently people can't stop sticking things in his butt. I don't get that. You go to a town, and you look at a statue and go, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna stick a piece of bubble gum between his butt cheeks. What is wrong with you people? It's the Mothman. He'll eat you or something. Wisconsin in the Hodag. I am from Wisconsin, so I am familiar with this creature. It has been around since the early 1800s. It was Eugene Shepard, timber cruiser from Rhinelander, Wisconsin. He did a prank and claimed to have discovered a creature so fierce it made lumberjacks quake in their boots. Uh, and it just kept going and going. It was something fearsome to be seen, and then it sightings exploded. People started claiming that they saw it everywhere. Does it exist? Possibly. It's similar to the chupacabra. So you know, I mean, wendigos and all these other creatures. There are creatures that are described to be just like it all over the country, and then people are like, well, it's a different creature. Well, it might be a different species of the same creature. The Wyoming jackalope. Back in the 1930s, two brothers, Ralph and Doug Herrick, were in Douglas, Wyoming, taxidermists, which means they made dead animals look lifelike. One night, after a few too many drinks, they found a rabbit carcass and decided to slap some antelope horns on it. And just like that, the jackalope was born. They started telling people that jackalopes were real and roamed Wyoming wilderness. They even claimed these creatures could mimic human voices, sing to cowboys at night, and imagine hearing imagine hearing somebody singing to you and then finding out that it is a rabbit with antlers. The jackalope is a very fake creature, so it's merely myth and folk tale. But you know, you gotta you gotta you really gotta put that out there. Get people get people believing in you.